India has been named specifically in a report alongside Russia and China. And that very fact, I think we're almost losing sight of the fact, that is so significant. This isn't France or Germany or Australia or Vietnam. India has specifically been named as one of 3 countries that essentially are acting as an enemy to Canada. That's the bottom line. It is interfering in Canadian politics with a malign intent, and that I think is in itself. We do get lost in the detail quite often, but it's only when you take a step back and say, hang on a second, does India realise just how significant this is? And of course, India publicly is up in arms saying, we deny everything and it's nonsense. But unfortunately, it's not nonsense, and this is all the resources of the Canadian government who've united to investigate this whole situation because they fear for their country's interests, they fear for their country's safety and those of its citizens. And India has been specifically named within that. So India, I think, the significance is just actually astounding that this nation is being essentially labelled as an enemy of Canada. And India clearly doesn't care about that. So that's one thing. The other thing is, you also then have to sort of say, well, look, okay, let's look at the bigger picture. Why? Why is India doing this? The cost of transnational repression is actually enormous. It is spending, there's a financial cost attached to this. And as we often say, James, that we know India are spending hundreds of millions of dollars every year on transnational repression, on its overseas activities to target and repress and oppress and persecute individuals living in foreign nations. That is a massive financial cost. Don't forget, this is a nation that has one of the greatest levels of poverty on the planet. It also, at the same time, has a space program. So the polarity in India's wealth is absolutely astounding. It's actually appalling that India not only has a space program, but it also boasts, if that's the right word, some of the worst poverty on the planet. And it also is allocating, as we say, nearly $500 million every year to transnational repression, to its overseas activity, to persecute those it perceives as enemies of the state. I mean, what is that in terms of justification of an allocation of assets, of allocation of your nation's wealth? Is it really justifiable to spend all that money of your nation's wealth on persecuting your political enemies? And the people of India need to ask themselves, is this really what you want for your nation? Do you really want your nation that is suffering so much poverty to spend nearly $500 million of the country's wealth, the country's bank accounts, on chasing the BJP's political enemies? Not your political enemies, the BJP's political enemies.